Hello, everybody. I'm Solarstone, and welcome to this, the third in my edition of Producer Talks, where I talk to artists and DJs who I know and I like. Well, I've liked all of them so far. And this one I particularly like because this is Farius, who is, I think, the most handsome boy in trance, and a very lovely man, and somebody who I think whose experience in our scene is possibly quite unique, and I think he might have some interesting stories for us. So, hello, Farius, or better known to his friends as Adam. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. What a lovely intro. Thanks for having me today.
My pleasure. So, Adam and I have worked together on a couple of tracks last year. We used to see each other, didn't we, at various events around the world, and Adam works for Enhanced Recordings, and whenever we used to meet, you always used to say, when are we going to get a track or a remix from you for the label, didn't you? And I never used to be able to remember your name, did I?
I was literally about to say you can never remember my name, so you'd always say, I know you, you're the handsome one, but I can't remember your name. And I suppose it was like a backhanded compliment. It was like, well, he can't remember my name, but he has called me handsome, so it's a win-win situation.
Paula used to say, why can't you remember his name? And I'm really terrible with names. But do you know what I came up with to remember you by? To me, you are like a really excellent example of what a man should look like. And so I associated you with Adam and Eve, like the first man. So when I saw you the last time, I saw you and I thought, oh, yeah, he looks like the first man. His name must be Adam.
Well, that's very kind. I'll take that. What a great way to remember it.
Because as we know, the trance scene, boys in the trance scene are not particularly good looking, are they? You know, trance producers are not known for their looks.
Well, I mean, I suppose.
How do you answer that one?
Well, we've gone right into the deep end, haven't we? No, do you know what? I suppose what I love about trance, and I've always loved about it, is that it has never felt like that showiness that you get in some other genres of dance music, where it is so much about the image, the look, what you're wearing, the labels, the clothes. And I've always enjoyed that.
At all, is it?
It's not about that. And I have to say, when I walked into trance, it was such a breath of fresh air.
Where did you walk from?
Well, I came from the gay scene in London, playing.
What? You're not gay, are you?
No, sorry, have I just come out? Oh, well, that's a world exclusive. No, I came from the scene in London, where actually it was all about what you look like. And I remember doing lots of gigs where people booked me because they thought I would look good and play some records well. And it was such a breath of fresh air to walk into the trance scene where no one gave a shit about that. And it was like, okay, cool, but like, what does your music sound like? And yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not for 1 minute. I don't want to sound arrogant for 1 minute or anything like that. It was a great way into the world.
But I am really handsome.
But it was, it was very nice to be appreciated for my musical abilities and the records I was making when I walked into trance. Do you know what I mean? It felt like, without you becoming my therapist, it felt like more validation than I'd had before, if you know what I mean.
Funny, isn't it? I agree with you, man. It's definitely not about how you look, is it, in the trance scene? Can't really say that about the techno scene anymore, though, can you? Because
well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
My feed on the social, well, to be honest with you, I don't really look at social media that much anymore. But when I do look at it, it's completely changed. I mean, it just seems to be selfies and posing, and I don't understand what has that got to do with this music.
It feels like it's difficult, isn't it? Because I know a lot of really well esteemed, successful, experienced DJs and producers who say the same thing, and I agree. But I also understand that this is the world we live in now, and I've never been great at. I say that, I mean, like, I can do the looks, the selfies, all that kind of stuff, and I think it's important to keep. Unfortunately, we're governed by an algorithm these days, and
it seems to be more important though. To some artists, yeah. It's just like my new single. I've just made an amazing new single, and there's just a picture of them kind of posing, and I just think, oh.
But Rich, I'm guilty of that as well, because I know that if I stick the pack shot up of my next record on Pure Trance,
everyone ignores it.
if I stick a selfie up or a press picture up, then you swipe to it, then you're going to get more engagement. More people will see it. More people will understand that the music's out there as well. So I agree. It doesn't make sense, but we're living in the algorithmic world of social media.
Maybe there's like a happy balance. I mean, I know when I do the radio show, if I just put a picture up and I say, "Hey, coming up on today's show," there's no engagement. But if I make a video of myself saying, "Hey, kids,"
yeah, exactly,
it gets more engagement. So, and I guess you have to have engagement, don't you? But I'm not sure whether it makes any difference to the amount of people who tune into the show each week. But you do the weekly show for Enhanced.
Yeah.
How did working for Enhanced come about? Because Enhanced is one of the big labels, isn't it, in trance? How did that all come about? Because you weren't there at the start, were you?
No. I mean, Enhanced was founded 16 years ago now.
By Will Holland.
Will Holland, and of course with Tritonal as well. They had a great.
They didn't found the label though, did they? They got involved later on.
Will started it, and then I think he realised that to make this work, he might need some really big names to work. So they kind of did a thing together. But that was back in 2009 or something. So
yeah, that was when they kind of went into the whole EDM scene, wasn't it?
I think Triton had a great progression of trance, and then EDM, and, all that kind of stuff. But for me, my in a nutshell, my journey with Enhanced started in 2019, actually, when I did my first record with Enhanced, and it was a real bucket list moment for me because I'd always got the promos of Enhanced.
2019.
Yeah, that was my first release on Enhanced. Yeah,
really, because it seems to me that you've been involved with them forever, but God, after COVID and everything, the whole time thing has completely gone, hasn't it, in our minds?
And that's actually how COVID was what happened, really, how I got in here doing A&R, because I got an email from Will Holland literally like a month before COVID shut everything down, and he said, "I've just realised you live in London and we need an extra pair of ears to do A&R. Would you be interested in doing a couple of days a week?" And at the time I was so busy, and I was like producing, and I was doing producing for other people and writing advert music and stuff like that with another producer. So I'd never thought about A&R. Like Farius stuff was very separate to like my income, if that made sense. It was like I was just trying to build that.
Yeah.
And I kind of thought, well, I've just got my US visa as well, so I was traveling a lot to America. And I thought, do you know what? I all things considered, I thought, do you know what? Maybe why not? Like, I'm approaching 30. Maybe I need to sort of settle down and find something a bit more stable. Anyway, thank God I did say yes to that job, because literally a month later, COVID hit, and everything was off the table. Basically, there was no gigs, there was no production work. Like, all the budgets were cut for everything like that. So I kind of fell into it that way, and that was 5 years ago.
What's your approach when it comes to A&R? Although a lot of people watching this, or some people watching this, might not know what that means. A&R is listening to music and deciding what tracks you want to sign, and possibly engaging in some kind of backwards and forwards with the artists to take the tracks to where they want to be. How do you do it? I mean, do you reply to every demo you get sent? How far involved do you get as a producer, or do you just tell us?
My approach is, I think you have to strike that balance between getting too technical as a producer and not technical enough. I mean, I think kind of gone are the days in our world of having A&Rs who don't know how to make records, who've never made a record. It really helps to have someone who knows what it's like to sit down and make a record. But if you start saying, can you surgically cut the frequency at XYZ by this, that, and that, I think that's where you can get a bit lost. So my approach really is to keep it a bit more light than that. And I do Enhanced Progressive, which is our main trance output, and I do Colorize, which is our deeper, more progressive.
But those are the labels you A&R for, Progressive and Colorize. You don't do the main label.
I don't do the main label, no, it's taken care of by somebody else.
Well, it's not really the main label, is it, anymore? It's like sometimes people think that if I sign a track to Pure Trance and it comes out on Neon, that it's somehow less than on Pure Trance, but it's not. It depends on the sound.
It's just a sonic thing, and it's just like, when we divide it into the sub labels, that kind of, we know which DJs it's going to. I'm not going to send a trance record to whoever supports the colorized records, Joris Vaughan or someone like that, and I'm not going to send a colorized record, a really down tempo slow one, to Armin. Do you know what I mean? So it's like
But you don't know these days, though. You just don't know what people are going to play. I mean, have no. It doesn't make any sense anymore. You've just got to think about it, haven't you? But
the more support, the better. Anyway, that's how I got into it, and my approach is very much not too technical, but I also think that having spent many years just DJing before I became a producer, that was my route in, rather than being these producers that come up and then they get into DJing. My approach has always been dance floor focused, rather than
what works in a club, don't you?
Well, I'd like to think so. It's kind of ingrained from years, from the age of DJing, from the age of 13. On decks and house parties and all the rest of it.
Were you 13-year-old Adam?
Oh yeah, first pair of decks at 13. But I have to say, not vinyls. They were just CDJs then.
Did your parents buy them for you?
Yes, yeah, they did.
Was music? Well, I mean, what kind of music did you used to listen to in the house? What kind of music did your parents play? Your parents probably I was going to say they're my age, but I'm not that much older than you. What kind of music did they play in the house? You were growing up in the 90s, right?
Yeah. Well, I had a great cross section because my dad's quite old, actually. He's in his 80s, so he loved like the big band, Frank Sinatra, all that kind of stuff. And so there was that playing. He also worked in the world of musical theatre as a lawyer. So we had a lot of musical theatre coming through.
He was in musical theatre?
As on the business side of things, not on the stage. My mum was a 60s hippie, so it was Jimi Hendrix, it was the Beatles, it was Pink Floyd. But then I've got older brothers who are now in their early 50s, so they were listening to dance music in the 90s. So I had this whole weird mishmash of everything that was going on in the house. So I don't know if that kind of explains what I do now. I have no idea, but that might bring it. And actually, music was always massive, and I ended up at school doing a lot in terms of choral stuff, so choir stuff.
I remember you telling me you used to sing in a choir. I'm so jealous of that. I always would have loved to have sung in a choir.
Yeah, but, I mean, it was my route. It's the foundation. I think I've said to you before, like the crossover from classical music to trance, I feel is so real and so deep. And
from classical music to trance.
Yeah, I feel like
music as well.
Yeah. I mean, I always feel like sometimes I'm writing chord progressions, and I could be back at, harmonizing a Bach chorale, which is what I used to do when I was 16 for my GCSEs. Because there is a way that things move, and it's just kind of ingrained in my brain. And it's foundation. Anyway, from there, I actually went on to do music at Guildhall in London, a conservatoire in London, classical music again, and then I went. Can I swear or not?
Fucking if you want.
I went, fuck it. I'm done with classical music, and I want to go and lose myself in the world. Nightlife, basically.
I draw the line at getting your cock out.
Farius OnlyFans, not yet. We'll see how my next single does, and we'll go.
Do you have an OnlyFans?
No, of course I don't. Really. But there's an idea. No, I'm joking. Only what we call Only Farius. No. Oh, don't give me ideas.
I agree with you. The whole classical music trance crossover. I guess it's well documented. Paul Oakenfold first started talking about this in the 90s, didn't he? And trivia, fans might be interested to know that Adam had never heard my track Third Earth until recently.
You've outed me.
Yeah, and I was really surprised. But then why would I be surprised? Because that record came out in, I don't know. When did that record come out? 2004 or something? 2000.
I was about to say 2004 when I was literally singing The Lamb by John Tavener in its original form in choir at school. For those who don't know, Rich used an amazing classical piece of music and used this amazing chord progression in it and turned it into a trance record. I'm sure they all know that. I only discovered this recently, and I'm desperately embarrassed.
Of course they wouldn't know that. People don't know. People wouldn't know that. What happened with that was Scott turned up at the studio with an idea for a track, and he had this sample out of The Lamb by John Tavener, and he said, let's build a track around this, and that's what we did.
Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant.
We had to get the sample cleared in order to release the record. Well, we didn't have to, but we did, and we ended up losing 95% of the money.
Was it worth it though?
Well, it was never about the money, but we did actually press up about 2,000 single-sided white label copies of it,
Wow.
which we sold to Hard to Find Records in Birmingham, and they sold them all for like, I think they gave us $5 each for them, so we did make some money out of it. And you can't get that money back from us now because we spent it.
What did you spend it on?
Drugs and prostitutes. No, not really.
This is the X-rated version of the podcast. I love it. Great.
What do you think of that Mark Michael remix? Have you heard it yet?
No, I haven't. I heard the remix that you didn't want released, and that's how I came into it. Did you hear that?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, someone did a remix of it. Let's move on from that one. There is a really great Aaron Stowers remix of Third Earth.
Is there? Well, I'm a fan of Aaron Stowers, so I'm going to check that out.
No, it's not out yet. It's
it's not out yet.
Nobody knows about it yet.
Well, they do now. That's amazing.
That's going to be coming out at some point. I've been playing it out in my sets for a while.
Brilliant.
Really, really great. It's really great. So I've got a little list of questions here. What am I going to ask you about next? Where do you live?
I live in London. I live in
like?
South London.
Where you live? Do you live in a nice bit or do you live in the rough bit?
I live in for me, it's a great bit because I'm from London. I was born in North London, and what I live in an area of London called West Norwood, which is just south of Brixton, and I love it because it feels like it's got the grittiness of London, but the poshness of like Dulwich around it. So it's not too annoyingly posh yoga mums, and it's not too rough. So for me, it's great. Yeah, none of that. Are they
the ones who wear the yoga pants and they all drive Range Rovers and they park on the pavement?
Yeah. So we've got like Herne Hill, which is very yoga mums. Got West Dulwich around us, but in the centre of West Norwood, it's like it feels like I live in London, which is what I always wanted. I don't want to live in Kensington or Knightsbridge or anywhere like that because it just doesn't feel like London for me. I'm a believer in diversity of where you live, and I get a lot of that.
So growing up and being a young gay man in London, you must have gone to Trade.
Do you know what? That actually hurts because Trade was the one I just missed. It finished like 6 months before I got back to London after studying, and I was so gutted because people still talk about that legendary club night, and they still bring it back for like every anniversary. Like
Heaven still exists, obviously.
Heaven, well, we can talk about Heaven. I used to be a resident DJ at Heaven, which was incredible.
You? Oh, that must have been amazing. Trade, for anyone watching this, Trade was a night that took place at Heaven in London. It was a gay night, and I went there a few times in my youth, and it was it completely opened my eyes to trance. Do you think it's funny how trance came out of the gay scene, and yet there's very few actual gay trance producers in the current scene? What is that all about? Are there more gay people producing techno or high energy or what? I mean, I don't understand it. You would think.
It's a really interesting topic, and it's one that I'm really, really interested in because
next question.
Ever since I started producing, and I mean, I always say that, and this is why I don't know the record you were just talking about, because my whole electronic music experience in London was always house and techno and deep house and tech house and all that stuff. You know, when in my really formative years in my early 20s, it was all of that. No one was playing trance, and I had to really go out and seek it. And I think moving on to the gay stuff, it's like there just isn't that representation in the trance scene of gay DJs at all.
Why? Why? I don't get it.
I think house music, we know the origins of house music. I think it's a lot more welcoming and opening. And I'm very aware that you and I may be chatting in our lovely, slightly progressive, slightly lefty bubble about this stuff. You know, I think for a lot of people, it's still quite unfamiliar. And also trance is such a global thing. You've got trance reaching places of the world where being gay isn't okay, you know? So I think there's a lot of different things at play, but I think house music in general, born out of the gay clubs in Chicago all those years ago, I think if you look at house music DJs, it's just so much more accepted, and you've got brands like Glitterbox making Defected having offshoots like Glitterbox, which is all about drag queens and glitter and disco music, and it just leans into that whole queer culture. a lot more than trance does. But I have to say, I'm on a not on a soul mission, but I'm on a mission to unite the queer scene and trance again, because
I'm on a mission.
Well, do you know what? I just think it's so important. And I've been to many, I tell this story a lot. I've been to so many gigs in so many countries where they go, you know, like, like we've got some, in fact, I was just in Indonesia, like this New Year's Eve, and they were like, oh, she really fancies you. Like, do you want to hook up with her? Blah, blah, blah. And I was just like,
did you?
No, I didn't. Because even though they were like, what happens in Indonesia stays in Indonesia.
What happens in Indonesia stays? I've not heard that one before. That's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
I know. And I was just like, you know, like, it's just, there's always this assumption. And a short of I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's like myself, Andrew Bayer, J-Tech of Anjuna Beats.
Andrew Bayer's not gay.
Andrew Bayer's gay. And there's a lovely guy called Amos and Riot Knight up in Liverpool. You know, he's really flying the flag as well. But, you know, there are a few of us. David, yeah, there are a few of us. But I just feel like it's still so far away. And there are still events that I go to that I wouldn't feel comfortable in the trance world, kissing my boyfriend or holding his hand at that event. And I really want to change that. And
your new album, the artwork on your album was quite heavily telling a story about your relationship, isn't it, with your other half? Is that right?
It was more about, I mean, he featured heavily in it. It was more about the artwork on that album was more about capturing the moment when you're in a rave. So a lot of the other shots were like, we did this photo shoot with all of my friends and we were all off our heads at a gig after I just played, and the photographer just came around and shot all these pictures, and we were just in the moment with listening to another DJ, and that was about. But obviously Rob, my boyfriend, was there, but so a load of my other mates. You just got all these amazing shots of us just sort of like, in so many words, having a great time.
We did our second single together was Barton Springs, and that's taken from Adam's album. And the cover of the album, it's basically got you cuddling your boyfriend, and I was getting messages from people going, "Is that you? And why are you cuddling?"
Could have been you, but it's funny. I mean, I know it's funny, but that's like, when was the last time there was a trance record with two gay guys on the front? Do you know what I mean? It's not been done. But let's look at techno and house and disco.
Well, I suppose the last one was the Pure Energy sleeves, weren't they? Me and Giuseppe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's, you know, like I'm so keen to push into that direction, not in a militant way, but just in a way that's like, hey, like, we exist and we're here as well in trance. And
isn't it funny, like in 2025, that you need to do that? But then again, I suppose some people would say, look, this is just music. What people's sexuality has got nothing to do with it, but it's got everything to do with it. Because
I've heard that many times before. But I always say, if I had known about someone like Andrew Bayer, or if I'd known about, you know, a very, very successful trance, even, to be honest, Rich, even in the EDM world, let's talk about Swedish House Mafia, Martin Garrix, Calvin Harris, in that world. If there was someone of that stature who was openly out and gay, I would have believed that I could have done this sooner. And
Isn't that funny? Why is that? That doesn't make any sense, does it? You actually feel that your being gay was a hindrance to you?
I can't stress that enough. Absolutely. I didn't think that who I was fitted into the world of trance, and it did fit very well into the world of house music and disco, but I wasn't really into that kind of music. So I think there's this old saying, and I always bring it out, it's you can't be what you can't see. So I couldn't see anybody in trance that would like me. Yeah. So I feel very passionately about showing, as like, I'm not an old man yet, but I'm on my way, but showing the next generation that you can be out and proud and gay in the world of trance and EDM, and you don't have to limit yourself to house and techno and all that. Like, I'm here, I exist, and I want to show people that, because it's
you're going to be a gay icon like Jimmy Somerville. I love Jimmy Somerville. I did a remix of Jimmy Somerville back in 1997.
Wow.
Of a track called By Your Side, and I couldn't believe it. And we sent the remix down to the label, and my phone rang, and I answered the phone, and there was this Scottish accent saying, "Hi, can I speak to Rich?" I was like, "Rich, hi, it's Jimmy Somerville." And I thought it was a joke because I thought, well, I just thought it was a joke and he didn't have a high voice. And he was just calling me up to say, "Hey, I really like the remix, but, and it sounds really good at FF, which was this night in London, but do you think you could use a bit more of the vocal?"
All right. Love
And
that.
we hadn't
That's
used any
nice.
of the vocal apart from one line.
Yeah. They always are more vocal.
I was only thinking yesterday, I was listening to the original version of Don't Leave Me This Way by The Temptations. It was the one that the Communards did a cover version of. How great it would be if the Communards made a new album.
Yeah. You mean Don't Leave Me This Way?
Yeah, exactly. They did a cover version of it. And I think a new Communards album would be wonderful.
One of my favourite drag queens does a great rendition of that in Vauxhall in London. We'll have to go sometime, Rich.
Oh, I'd love to. I would love to. I don't really go out anymore. I'd love to go to a gay night in Vauxhall, look at drag queens.
We can do all of that. You just let me know when you're in town and you've got the night off.
I used to know a drag queen called Roger, who used to do the door at Moneypennies in Birmingham.
Wow. I bet you've got loads of stories. But you must have played gay clubs in your time, Rich.
No.
What? We need to change that then. We need to change that.
They're not going to book me now, are they? Unless it's a Bears night.
Listen, we're a broad church. I mean, it's funny you're talking about this, and there's nothing I can sort of announce, but I'm in kind of progress of thinking about starting my own event, which marries both of these worlds up, because it's the world I came from and it's the world I'm in now, and it's so important for me that they fuse.
So does that mean only gay DJs?
No, not at all. No, not at all.
Bears?
Just a place where gay people can come and enjoy trance, because also on the gay scene, it's all house, techno, and disco. There's no trance. There's no gay trance nights anywhere in the UK.
You really need to do it in London.
I've sold my IP now, and someone's going to do it before I do. But no, I'm working on it. I've got a club who are interested. I'm working the branding. It's a whole new 2025 adventure for me, but it's a lot of work, as well as trying to do music, as well as trying to do radio and A&R. It's difficult.
We will get behind that completely. For you.
I love it. Well, Rich, I mean, it's definitely not gay only DJs, but I'm trying to get the gay community or the queer community into trance rather than bringing trance into the queer community. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
This reminds me of something quite funny from the morning show. There used to be this guy, I don't know if I've got this story right, but there used to be this guy who used to be in the chats when I used to do the morning show on Twitch, and he was from, I don't know, somewhere Malaysia or something. And he said one day he'd fallen out with his neighbour because his neighbour found out he was gay. And the neighbour was putting slices of bread on his car so that the birds would damage the paintwork on his car by pecking off the bread.
Well, I hope he's all right. I hope his car's all right. God.
I mean, how surreal is that?
It's so weird. It's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get a bit of bread and I'm going to put it on his car.
What's happening with music? What are you doing music? Because your album's just come out. We had the 2 singles. I think to you, the album came out a month ago. Now you think that it's kind of old, but you must be pulling more singles off that album.
Yeah, no, it's doing really well. You know what it's like putting a big body of work together. It takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it definitely took a lot of that. And I nearly chucked it all out and started again. And, you know, we've all been there before. I'm really happy it's out there. And what I'm trying to do now is not what I did on my last album, which was 2020, which was just like a random load of songs. And then I kind of stopped for a while. What I'm trying to do now is not fall into that trap of letting everything just sink. So, yeah, we're still doing stuff off the album.
What do you mean letting everything just sink?
Well, last time I just kind of was like, oh, well, that was a huge body of work and I worked so hard and now I'm going to take a month off. And then I kind of really struggled to get back into the swing of things, making records again. So this time I'm like, right, I've got a State of Trance coming up in February in Rotterdam. Got to make some records for that, you know, make some new stuff and, you know, think about the other gigs that are coming up. And I just want to kind of push on and kind of explore, push the boundaries now. I've done that album and think about new stuff now. And I'm pushing myself to be like, right, I need to get Friday back in the studio. No, yeah, of course I could go to the cinema or go to the pub, but I'm going to go into the studio. So
are you going to do a single for Pure Trance?
I'd love to, yeah. I mean, I'm not exclusively tied in anywhere, I don't think. I should probably check. I probably have some post-album options to execute. But yeah, I'd love to. I mean, I'm all about trying new stuff this year musically.
Are you sure you want to make? Do you want to make another track with me, or do you think that's kind of been done now?
Let's do it. No, of course. No, let's do it. I mean, I love working with you, and the passion you have and the knowledge you have is incredible. And I feel very lucky and fortunate to have worked with you on the records we've done thus far.
Shut up.
It's true. It's true. It's been great. Let's do another one. Let's do it on your label. Let's do it on whatever labels. I mean, I'm sitting on a load of stuff.
Okay.
Try new bits. So who knows? Who knows?
Okay. The way we worked for people watching this, the way we worked on our tracks was the first one we did Velvet Tread. I wrote something quite simple, and I sent it to you, and then you splashed it all out, didn't you? And you did most of the post-production on that. Most of the production on that. I think
the first
part of the track was me. The second part was you, wasn't it?
But then it came back to you. So I remember you finishing it off. But listen, you can't build off anything without the foundations there. I love that. That was a really good one to do. And then Barton Springs as well.
Barton Springs, and I'll tell people now, Barton Springs is basically a finished track that Adam sent to me, and he sent it to me asking if I fancied collaborating on it. And I think he did that because he knew that it sounded like a Solarstone.
Actually, do you know the truth is, Will Holland, my A&R here, he heard it, and he said, you got to send this to Solarstone.
Right.
So Will's got to take a little bit of A&R credit for that. And as soon as you sent what you sent back, I was like, shebang, this is it. This is the one. And
yeah,
great.
Because I really loved it, but it sounded to me like it just needed a little lead melody. So I came up with that thing in the breakdown, which is kind of sort of traditional Solarstone, and then you sent me the stems, and then I changed some stuff, and that was it. But when I listened to that record, to me that's kind of like Farius featuring Solarstone.
No, I don't think it's that. I'm a real comment scourer. And if you look at a lot of comments, it's like you can really hear the Solarstone in here. So,
do you look at those? Do you know? I never ever look at anything like that because
they say don't read the comments, don't they?
You get like 50 nice comments, and then they get one arsehole, and that is the one that you remember.
Ruins your day. I know what you mean. I take it all very with a pinch of salt. It's social media. It's people hiding behind keyboards.
Do you really take it with a pinch of salt, or does it actually hurt you?
Do you know what? I'm sure I don't get nearly as many comments as you do generally. And everyone seems to be
true at all. I don't think that's true. Probably not true at all. I mean, I'm not very good on social media, not a Solarstone at all. I know I should do a post every day, but I just think, what's the point of trying to think of something to post? If I'm going to do anything, I want it to be authentic. Authenticity. Yeah. You are extremely authentic. I'm really worried about the whole AI thing, about how authenticity seems to be being sacrificed for some reason. Yeah. And I'm not sure what's replacing it.
It's really difficult because, and I'm also a big believer in not oversharing as well. Like there's a lot that goes on in my life that you don't see on social media.
You wouldn't want to either.
I'm not very good at being like, hey, here's my breakfast, or do you know what I mean? Like I'm not very good at that. I understand it works for some people, but I try to kind of put as much across as myself that I feel comfortable with, but it's I know what you mean about AI and stuff, but back to the comments. I think it's just very I think you've just got to be a real wanker to go on and be like, I know, but he wants this is shit. It's like, what? Why have you done that? I don't need to know that. Like,
it's called a fan page. It's called a fan page. If you haven't got something nice to say, don't say anything.
Don't say it at all. That's what my mum always taught me as well.
Me
Rich.
too.
And I find it. It doesn't affect me too much. I do get, not to harp on about it, I do get feel quite targeted when I have some people who come from my sexuality. Keep it, we don't care about you. You're gay. We just like your music and blah 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 blah. That kind of fucks me off because I'm like, no, this is the reason why I do it, because idiots like you kind of don't understand what it's like to put yourself out there and the rest of it. But musically,
it's a balance, isn't it?
It is. But musically, I don't care. I do not believe I'm the next god of trance. I'm not the next Armin. I'm not the next Eric Prydz. I'm not the next Above and Beyond. I'm not the next.
Who does think that? I mean,
Carl
if you start off like that, then you're going to be sorely disappointed, aren't you?
So I always think like, this is my record. I'm going to put it out there. Do I like it? Yeah, I do, and I hope a few other people. Genuinely, I always think I'm like, I put the pressure on myself, but I think I like this record. This Barton Springs. I think this is a really great record. Will I play it out? Yeah. Will it get support? Yeah. I mean, if someone doesn't like it, find another record to go.
I always think that I always think every record I make is it's going to disappoint everyone.
Well, that's called imposter syndrome, isn't it, or something like that?
I always have, man. And it's like when people say they love it, and then I think, oh yeah, of course my fans are going to love it because they love all the other tracks, but still,
yeah,
I don't know. It's weird, isn't it, that thing?
Well, to throw it back to you in a different way, like, do you ever? Because I experienced this.
I'm interviewing you.
Sorry, but let me just have one. Do you ever get on stage and you do a set and you're up there going, I'm hating every single moment of this. When will it stop?
Oh, only if I've got explosive diarrhea and it's an open to close.
You need one of those long 8 to 10 to 12 minute edits.
It's hard when you're. It's hard if you travel 14 hours to do a gig and then there's only 20 people there. But then I don't know. I guess that's how it is sometimes. And then other times, like, oh God, 25 years of Euphoria at the Steelyard on New Year's Day.
That's amazing.
Playing to an absolutely packed room of people who know every single track.
Yeah.
I was on after Dave. I was on before Dave Pearce. Yeah. And when he came on, I said to him, now I know what it's like being you. Because it's like that for him all the time. He's nailed it, hasn't he? He's absolutely nailed it, Dave.
Do you want a fun fact? When I first started doing the Farius stuff, me and Dave Pearce met, and he managed me for about.
Did he?
Yeah, for about 2 years. Yeah, and he was great. We're still in touch. We still go for lunch every couple of months. Like
he's done so much for the trance scene with his show on radio, one of trance anthems and dance anthems. Yeah. Honestly, a spin from Dave Pearce was just Yeah. He's such a lovely guy as well. I think he's some people in the trance world don't really give him the credit I think he deserves.
Yeah. No, Dave was amazing. I think with us, he's obviously still incredibly busy, and he has his record label and stuff like that. So the management thing didn't quite work out, but I love that man, and I'm hugely thankful to him for. He kind of introduced me to Above and Beyond as well, and he was so helpful with that as well. In terms,
why doesn't he make records? He never makes. You never hear it.
Me and Dave Pearce have made 2 records together. If you scour all the way down my Spotify, you'll find
Farius and Dave Pearce.
Yeah, we got a lot of it got a lot of support from A&B, Sander Van Doorn.
I would love to make a record with Dave.
Yeah. Oh my God, that'd be incredible. Why don't we all get in the studio and do something fun?
What? Dave Pearce, Farius, and Solarstone?
Yeah, my God, amazing. Like me, sat between my 2 trance dads. That'd be fantastic.
Let's ask Dave what he says first, because he might.
Someone send this to Dave. Someone tag at Dave Pearce in the comments. Thanks. See if he sees them.
That's it.
Wow. Oh my God, that's been like an hour. Incredible.
I just looked at the time. It's been just about an hour now. So I think we should, rather than try to force the issue, I think we should end it there.
Well, listen, let's go for a beer and we can carry this on another time.
We'll go for a beer now.
I mean, it's 1:15 on a Thursday. I think that's acceptable.
Yeah, but you live in London and I live in Wales.
Well, whenever you're next in town, it'd be great to see you, Rich. And thank you for having me on the show. It's I've got a huge amount of love and respect for you and everything you're doing, and it feels lovely every time I see your name pop up on my phone.
Thank you. Okay, well, everybody, this has been Producer Talks with the fabulous Farius.